Hi everyone, today I'll be doing a project analysis video and today's choice of project is Bloomsbury Residences, which will be launching on the 29th of March 2025. Before we get started, I'm the Sweeney and I would really appreciate it if you help me like and subscribe to my channel and share it out if you think that this real estate content and project review is beneficial for you. So how this review is going to be done is going to be broken down into four main parts. The first one is your project overview. Next will be your pros and cons about Bloomsbury Residences. Moving on to the price matrix, and the last thing will definitely be the site plans and the floor plans that we will dive right into. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's get started on the project overview. So Bloomsbury Residences, they have got 358 residential units. And because this is a residential with first level commercial itself, you also have got commercial lots in this particular development. So over here, three main blocks, 23, 21 and 14 stories for the three blocks. That's the highest it gets to. The tenure is actually 99 years leasehold and your expected TOP is on 7 February 2029. Bloomsbury Residences, because it is located in the heart of One Off, which is also a car line area, you have got 143 residential parking lot as well. So the developers for this development is actually Qingjian and 4C Holdings. For Qingjian, they're actually quite reputable and they have done quite a bit of developments in Singapore. What we might be familiar with is might be your Forever Bukit Timah, Altura, Le Quest and Jadescape as well. So the last launch that we've seen in this area is actually Blossoms by the Park and also the Hill at One North. For Blossoms by the Park, they actually sold really well. On day one, they sold over 70%, and in fact, as of now, it's about 93% sold. And the Hill at One North right now is about 42% sold itself. So right here, you realize that actually all those launches that launched previously, Blossoms and the Hill at One North, they're all actually at the Biopolis region itself. This is the first time that we are seeing something at the Media Circle area right here as well. So that is Bloomsbury Residences. In fact, what makes this particular plot quite an interesting one is that this is actually the first of many upcoming plots. For Bloomsbury Residences, the developers actually bidded the land for 1191 per square foot per plot ratio. And in fact, they had 3 bids for this particular plot. So from the first bid to the second bid, from Hong Leong Holdings versus Qingjian, right there, actually the bid is only 2.7% difference. You kind of have the assurance that the developers are not overpaying for this particular piece of land as well. Actually, the next particular plot with the plot ratio of 3.7, this particular plot, Media Circle Parcel AGRS land, has also been bidded by Qingjian, and they got the land bid for 1037 per square foot per plot ratio. And same thing, they also had 3 particular bids for this land, and both of the number 1 to number 2 bidders are very similar once again. By having the same developer bidding for the second land, it also gives buyer a little bit of assurance in terms of price protection, because they kind of don't want to be like saboing themselves. Even though they bidded the land lower, would they really be selling it cheaper as well? And of course, for Bloomsbury Residences, in the Media Circle area, is actually the first of many upcoming plots. So you kind of have the first mover advantage into this particular area through too. And this 4.2 plot ratio in green color that I've circled out actually, this is a very interesting site, because in fact, this land was already released. However, this particular plot actually has got a service apartment site of about 60 years lease, and obviously it was bidded for 461, which is too low. So actually for this kind of plots, it's a bit unique. Developers don't know how service apartments will actually perform in such a region itself, and hence they have a bit of resistance when they bid for the price. So they actually will normally give a very conservative bid. By government not releasing that particular bid when it's bidded at too low of a price, it's actually not the first time that this has been done. In fact, the Jurong Lake district area, there was one of the plot that the government didn't release, and the next one is actually the Marina Garden Crescent land that government thinks that is way too low. And government don't actually release that price. It's actually a price protection for buyers in that. The government were to release that land at that particular lower cost, what if the developers are feeling in a good mood that day and decided to launch it at a really low price? So this will affect the buyers in the surrounding area and not protect the past buyers that has actually bought that particular region, or protect the price that the government thinks that the land should actually hold that value. For Bloomsbury Residences, you're looking from 2 bedders all the way to 4 bedders, and even they've got penthouses that are actually up to 6 bedrooms unit types. And this is extremely rare. In fact, the whole of One North, right? This is the first time that a developer has built a 6 bedroom unit type. But for the starting from 2 bedders, why a lot of developers these days don't really start from 1 bedder or 1 plus study, in fact, is because of the lower demand for 1 plus studies or 1 bedder. As we see from the past launches that has just happened, such as your Parktown Residences and also in fact Emerald Katong, the Ori, they actually still have 1 plus study remaining, and most of their 2 bedders, or in fact all of their 2 bedders, are actually all snapped up. And that's why a lot of developers these days actually start building from 2 bedrooms onwards. So let's dive into the pros and cons about Bloomsbury Residences. So for this particular plot, I think the first thing that probably strikes a lot of people is that this is actually not right next to the MRT. In fact, it's about a 3 minutes drive to One North MRT. So to me, that would be one of the cons. However, it being located in a commercial hub of One North area, it might not be a deal breaker for some people that buy for own stay, or even for investors that buy to rent it out, because the tenant pools that are actually coming through might already be from One North workforce itself. So that brings me to my next point. In fact, for the One North area, right, it's actually filled with those like high-tech firms and also a lot of enterprises right in that particular region, which means one thing: the people that are in the area are able to pay a bit more in terms of rental wise, and they're able to afford the properties in that region as well. In fact, in the entire One North, there's about a 50,000 workforce population. But then there's actually only about 1,700 total units in the One North region itself. I include even Blossoms by the Park and also the Hill of One North, plus Bloomsbury Residences right inside this 1,007. So this means only 3.4% of the privileged professionals and tenants can actually get a unit or stay inside One North. And on top of that, if we go a bit further out, like we count in Normanton Park Residences and the older like Dover Park View, Heritage View, only 4,877 units. If I put that into a percentage ratio, only 9.8% of professionals or tenants can actually get a unit in this entire development if they were to rent every single unit out. So this really shows the high demand and also the very, very low supply that is in this region. Because of the high demand and low supply, in fact, the rental yield in this region is actually approximately 3.2% to about 4.1%, which is actually quite a healthy amount. So moving on to the next point, actually this development has got an attribute that a lot of investors like to enter into, which is called the first mover advantage. You might be thinking that, hey, Blossoms launched already, and also here at One North launched already. What first mover advantage? In fact, this is the first particular plot in the Media Circle Township region itself. So there's actually going to be about 5 plots that's up and coming, and this is actually the first particular plot. And this is also an advantage in a sense of it, because developers also don't know how buyers would actually react to this particular area. So which means developers also want to price it right to make sure their units can sell. And to support that particular pricing point itself, right, the good thing is actually the same developer, Qingjian, bid the second land right in front, parcel A. Even though they bidded it slightly lower, as I mentioned just now. So this would mean one thing. So for the developers that actually enter into this particular region, right, in fact, they wouldn't want to be like killing their own projects, so they must price their project, the first project, right, for the next project to also move forward as well. So that gives yourself that little bit of advantage or a price protection as a buyer. Today when I enter into it, I know that, hey, my next development won't anyhow flash price because different developer. Even though lower, will we really launch lower? Which is, I think, the question that was actually thrown out when Lentor, that region, launched. So in fact, for Lentor Modern itself and Lentor Hills, which is the second plot that launched right after Lentor Modern, in fact, the developers for Lentor Hills bidded the land about $200 per square foot cheaper than Lentor Modern. But at the end of the day, a lot of buyers will say, hey, then will they launch $200 per square foot lower or not? I mean, the data all shows for itself. At the end, that didn't happen. So that gives you that pricing protection. And I see how Qingjian is actually bidding the second land as well. Likely they also want to be like another Hong Leong bidding Lentor, right? They might want to conquer all the lands right across there too. So moving on to the last particular point on the pros and cons section itself. In fact, this particular development, right, the front facing actually faces towards the West Sex Estate, which is a very, very gorgeous greenery view. In fact, a lot of it over there now are your black and white houses. So for now, you've got a unblocked view, kind of greenery view at the moment. However, just take note that the view is not 100% guaranteed. So that's where the cons come in. So it's a double-edged sword. So because this particular plot is actually zoned in the orange residential zoning, and it's actually under master plan subject to detailed plannings, which means to say it is not a conserved plot of land. So we cannot guarantee that this particular plot will forever remain as low rise. So that's just one thing to take note of if you're really buying for views. So let's dive into the pricing analysis of Bloomsbury Residences. So what we're going to do is to compare the newer launch like Blossoms by the Park and also the Hill of One North, and also compare a resale development not too far away within 1 kilometers from Bloomsbury Residences. So right here itself, looking at Blossoms by the Park, in fact their per square foot transacted averagely is about 2,400 XX per square foot. And the highest done deal is actually 2,700 XX per square foot itself. For Hill at One North, the average per square foot is about 2,005 XX, and the highest done deal is also about 2,700 XX per square foot. So we're going to use Normanton Park as a resale example because Normanton Park is actually within 1 kilometer to Bloomsbury Residences. But I don't know, but I personally think that it's a bit more ulu compared to Bloomsbury Residences. At this particular development, right, in fact, the highest transaction is already at 2,300 per square foot already. And averagely it's about 2,001 XX per square foot. For Normanton area itself, right, currently there's like nothing surrounding there. But for Bloomsbury Residences, right, what even though there's like not a mall right next to it or anything like that, in fact, this particular plot being residential and first level commercial, you will have at least a couple of shops down there, and the plot surrounding it is also zoned the same. So meaning to say, I would say easily you have about 20 commercial lots in total added up all together if let's say each plot have about 4 to 5 shops. And let's not forget, the developments that I actually use, right, Blossoms by the Park, the Hill at One North, and even Normanton, right, they are actually not a harmonized project. So in fact, you actually have to add about a 7% difference to actually do a normalization from a harmonized to a non-harmonized project itself. So today, right, let's take out the starting from prices. So this is where you're in for a treat. So the starting from prices is actually already released, and it is starting from about 2,003 XX per square foot. So your two bedders is from 1.3 XX million, three bedders about 2.1 XX million, four bedders about 2.8 XX million as shown right here. So when developers actually release the pricing, we can really tell that actually they are quite um, conservative in their price release already, because today, right, in fact, we've seen a lot of OCR and RCR launches. The one they have just done is actually your Parktown Residences, Lentor Central, OCR, and also Chuan Park. And for Chuan Park, it has done about 2,700 per square foot, Parktown about 2,500, and even Lentor is already about 2,300, almost 2,400 per square foot. And if we look inside the RCR region, just to give an apple comparison, we have got the Ori that launched at the start of the year, and Emerald Katong, which actually has done 3,000 for the Ori, and also for Emerald Katong about 2,900 per square foot, averaging about 2,627 per square foot itself. So of course, we don't know how the developers are going to be pricing this entire thing at the end of the day, because we only have got the starting from prices and not the every single unit price. But if you ask me, I would say averagely this development will likely do about 2,500, 2,600 per square foot on average at the end of the day, which will be very, very similar to what we see for Blossoms and also the Hill at One North. But let's not forget that this is harmonized. So in fact, you're actually getting more out of it. So let's dive into the site plan and also some of the floor plans of Bloomsbury Residences. So now looking on it as a whole, in fact, this particular development is quite stunning. Its theme is actually the black and white houses, which Westside Estate actually have got that. So they kind of bring the outside area and then bring it into the development in the same theme as well. And for this particular plot, in fact, this is the first plot, right, that has got a tennis court in the One North area. So that really firstly gives it its first bonus point. And you realize that normally developers actually place their tennis court like at the side of the development because of the noise and stuff like that. But then for this particular developer, what they've done really interestingly is to put it right almost at the like a centerpiece of the development, which is quite a statement. And in fact, if you look at it on a whole like that on a model, it's actually really stunning. And Some people might say, hey, wouldn't it be very noisy if my unit faces the tennis court, which is about 50% of the unit lah. But then do take note, actually the pool area, the 50 meters lap pool and the smaller two other pools also create that setback before it hits the tennis court. So I don't foresee the noise factor being a jarring one, especially when it's a bit more sunken already on the tennis court area. So just take note, for the three blocks itself, 61, 63 and 65, they are up to different levels. So for 61, it goes up to level 23, 65 until level 21, and then you've got block 63, which is like up to 14 level itself. 61 and 65 both have got a roof terrace, 63 doesn't. But for block 61 and 65, just take note that there are 8 units per floor loading. In fact, for block 63, this is actually a point block concept, which means you only have got 4 units in that floor level itself, and you realize how developers actually place the bigger unit types in that particular block as well. So you've got your bigger 3 bedrooms and also your 4 bedders in block 63. And your 2 bedders are all in block 61 and 65. So how the developers have placed the units, right, it's actually in an L-shaped kind of concept. 50% of the development will have dual views, both your landscaping view and also your West Side Estate view itself, which is going to be quite a nice greenery view to have. So in Bloomsbury Residences, in fact, most of your units all start from level 3 onwards. So your level 2 is your landscaping area, where you have got your pool and also your gymnasium is all at. And also your level 2 to level 3 has got an 8 meters in height difference. So meaning today, if you're on level 3, you actually kind of gain like a floor height right there too. One of my favorite part about this development is actually how the developers have curated the commercial element of this particular development. So you realize the Bloomsbury Shoppies, right, is actually tucked to the side instead of how a normal residential plus first story commercial plot of land looks like. Your level 1 will be where your shops is, and on top of it is the residential area itself instead of it being on the side. So when you have got that element of like, hey, my bottom level 1 is shops, right, normally the ventilation shaft is all on the outer areas, and this will sometimes actually deter clients from buying the lower floor units in those stacks that are facing it. But by putting the Bloomsbury Shoppies on the side itself, it already takes away that particular element. So now people don't have that crumbs of, hey, buying low floor near the ventilation shaft. And also, that V-shaped ventilation shaft is actually pointing outwards towards the development and not even inside. So I think that's a small little thoughtful thing that the developers have actually thrown in for this particular plot. Diving into the floor plans itself, in fact for Bloomsbury Residences, this is actually a non-PPVC development, which means quite a few of your walls can actually be hacked down and altered to your own liking. If you ask me, for investors, if they're going to rent it out, maybe it wouldn't make a huge difference. But then, if this is a own stay piece, whether it's for yourself or your future buyers, this can be quite an important factor. And why do I say that? So for example, now we're looking at the 2-bed 1-bath type B1. This is actually 570 square foot. Let's not forget this is harmonized, so in the resale it's a 600 plus square foot, which is quite a good size for a 2-bed 1-bath. So right here, right, if you're looking at the whole entire layout, is actually a dumbbell layout, very common layout, and the master bath actually have got dual entrance from the living room and also the master bedroom itself. Now I'm going to show you how non-PPVC can actually add value to certain people that are buying for own stay. So in fact, right, if today you are a bachelor or just a small family, like just a couple, you can actually take down one of the bedrooms, for example, bedroom 2. And then you will have a really huge living room area, and then you've got your master, because they may only need 1 room, but they want a bigger common space. Or some bachelor's pet, they might even want to hack down both the walls of the rooms and just have it as a single floor plate space as well. So that gives you that flexibility to play around with that. So I'm not going to talk about the rest of the 2-bed 2-bath units because they're all mainly all dumbbell layouts and we are all quite familiar with that. But what I'm going to dive into is only just particular type, which is type B3, which is a 2-bed 2-bath unit, 2-bedroom premium in fact. And this is 678 square foot. And at one glance, I think the first thing you get attracted to that, this is not a dumbbell layout. In fact, this is a conventional layout. But for 678 square foot, it's actually not too big for a conventional layout, which is a good thing because now your quantum is still very palatable and affordable too. So for this particular layout type, what sets it apart is actually not that it's just conventional. In fact, the positioning of this in the development, they are all corner units. So when it is all corner unit, it means one thing lah. There is a possibility that the developers could do windows in your bathrooms. So right here we see the developers have actually done windows in both your master bathroom and also your common bathroom, which is very, very uncommon for two-beders these days because they're normally placed right in the center of the entire stack itself. Yeah, so this is just one attribute. So if you are really need windows person, right, this might be the layout for you. Now looking at the three-bedroom layout, I'm not going to go through all the three-bedroom layout. In fact, I'm only going to touch on the compact three-bedroom, which is actually 904 square foot, your type C1. So a lot of times when we see the other developments or newer launches, right, all your compact three-bedrooms, it's very rare that you have got windows in your kitchen and also your bathroom. But for Bloomsbury, all of the three-beders have got windows in your bathroom and also your kitchen area, so that's really a bonus. Besides that, this is actually a three-bedroom plus study, so they still managed to squeeze in a study space in this particular layout. But if you don't need a study, you can potentially use it as like a storage space lah. So that is one thing that I think they've done really nicely for the 904 square foot. So now moving on to the four bedders. In fact, same thing, I'm not going to be talking about every single four bedder layout. I'm just going to look at the smallest one, which is actually 1173 square foot, which is normally a compact four bedroom. This is a four bedroom premium plus study. But this particular layout, right, what's good is that even though it's 1173 square foot, if you look at it, right, this one also has got a bomb shelter. So despite it making a compact four, they didn't take away the storage element, which some developers might actually remove away to just feel like the whole space is bigger, but they didn't. And also all their bedrooms, right, can all fit in a queen size bed, and master definitely a king size bed. So in general, it's still quite good size. And same thing for the compact four, they also have got the study. So in case you want to curate another storage area, you've got another flexibility of space to play with as well. To sum it up, for Bloomsbury Residences, I think the intrinsic values such as your landscaping and also your layout, they're all done quite nicely. Despite it not being right near an MRT station itself, I don't think this will be a huge deal breaker for specifically this particular location because of it being in a commercial hub and still quite accessible to your one-off area and the surrounding things that you have got right there. So there's also some of the commercial shops in that particular development and also the surrounding upcoming developments. And in terms of pricing, developers are starting from 2003. I would say average will probably be about 2526, which is already lower than what has done in actually Blossoms, the Hill at One North, and also quite a fair comparison to Normanton Park as well. So that's just what I think, but let me know your thoughts as well. So if you're keen to see Bloomsbury Residences, feel free to hit me up right here. If not, feel free to like, comment, and also subscribe. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!